Joe Rogan is now spiritually awake, so what does that mean for the world? Because he's got a very big platform. Joe's podcast reaches millions, probably tens or hundreds of millions of people all around the world from different areas of life, and it gets quoted and reshared. So if Joe is awake, or at least awakening, that means that there's a lot of big changes that are coming to the world. When you see these big influencers and big people with big platforms becoming awake and questioning things, the ripple effect that has is absolutely enormous. I'm going to explain a bit more about that and about Joe's spiritual awakening. So as you probably know, Joe Rogan started out talking about, narrating fights. So he was a narrator. Is that the right word? Narrator? A commentator. He was a commentator. And in many ways, he still is, but he's shifted now to this big podcasting platform, the Joe Rogan Experience, where he talks about basically everything, all areas of life. And on that podcast, he's had different guests. So he's had like all kinds of people from different areas sharing different opinions. And then because they're long form podcasts, usually the person has a lot of time to really share their opinion and actually talk. Usually these podcasts are anywhere from 2 to sometimes 5 or 6 hours long. There's no censorship there. If you watch the whole episode, the guest gets to say everything they want to say. And so what that means is that Joe has been subjected to many people's true opinions, and they've had time to really back up what they believe and what they say. And as a result, his listeners have also had time to listen to these people that would usually only be given a few seconds of airtime, or their interviews would have been chopped up into little pieces to make it sound like they meant something different. And so now, because he's had these thousands of hours of listening to, talking to different people, he has a lot of different perspectives, and that, I believe, is what has caused him to wake up. So now he discusses physical reality, quantum mechanics, holographic reality, manifestation, and all of these concepts that weren't really being talked about before, at least not in the mainstream. And now he's bringing them to the majority of the population. And by the way, his podcast listenership is bigger than like CNN. It's huge. It's like, people don't realize how big this is. This is a big movement, and people really respect this guy because he actually gives his guests time to talk. So when influencers like Joe, like Russell Brand, like Jim Carrey, when these people wake up and start really questioning exactly what's going on in reality, that causes a huge ripple effect. Because even one person with a big platform, like Russell, for example, he now has put the seed of these questions into millions of people's minds. Each of those millions of people will then go on to put that seed, that idea in the form of a seed, into the minds of thousands of other people. And so before you know it, an idea has spread from one person to hundreds of millions of people all around the world. And so this is, I think, really powerful. And I think another interesting thing is that with the internet, they've really created a tool which allows ideas to spread very effectively. Because let's say one person shares an idea to hundreds of millions. Now each of those hundreds of millions could create their own content and share that idea to millions more people. Like I could make this video, and let's say this reaches, for argument's sake, 100 or 200 people, and then each of those 200 people could then make the same video where they talk about the same idea, and then that spreads to thousands more, and before you know it, you have ideas spreading very quickly. So you can't hide what's going on. And this is why people are waking up, whether it's to do with the medical situation, you know what I mean, over the last 2 years. You can't hide this stuff. The truth is coming out, and it will constantly be coming out and reshared and amplified. You can't censor this stuff. As hard as they try, you can't hide ideas from the world. Ideas will always spread, especially true ones, and especially ones that make a lot of sense and are in everyone's best interests. You can't hide that stuff. So I think that's an interesting aspect of Joe Rogan's awakening, is that it's not just his awakening, it's actually him helping to wake up his audience. And it's the same with any big person with a big platform. When they share an idea, even if it's just a question or a different way of looking at something, that causes the audience to then also start to ask those questions. And I think that's really interesting. Let me know what you think, and let me know your favorite Joe Rogan episode, because there's hundreds of them, and I've watched a few of them, quite a lot of them actually, but I need to know what you think is the best one, and I'll check that out.